Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Vexillocast, a vexing conversation about flags and flag history, a visual media discussed through an audio medium. I'm your host, Violet Jackson.
And I'm your co-host, Roxy Milliken.
And thank you all so much for joining me on another very special episode. I am super excited to get into it. But before we get started, I want to get into some podcast housekeeping. If you like this podcast or want to show your support, make sure you like this podcast and leave a comment. Tell me that you like the podcast, tell me your favorite part, or just tell me if I missed anything. All comments are appreciated. Also, make sure that you follow me on wherever you get your podcasts so you don't miss an episode. Finally, if you want to interact with the podcast further, keep the conversation. You can tell me on YouTube and on Spotify at the Vexillocast. Without further ado, let's get into the episode. What do you say, Roxy?
Sounds great to me.
Awesome. Well, we got a very special person with us today, the designer of the Tulsa Flag, Jordan Winn. Thank you so much for joining us, Jordan.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited to get to talk with you all.
Man, I'm super excited too.
Well, thank you so much for making time for us. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, sure thing.
So let's get right into it. So I want to talk about your creative journey. I know you're basically the creative mind behind Labor Division and have almost 15 years experience. Is that correct?
Professionally, I think it's somewhere around 11 years now.
11 years.
But I started doing design when I was in high school. So I'm going to age myself here a little bit. I think I started when I was 14. So I am now 34. So
wow.
I think around 20 years in.
Man. How do you keep yourself artistically driven? Like, you've been doing this since you're 14. Like, how do you keep yourself up?
Yeah, it's a lot of it has to just do with inspiration. Always looking for new things to try. So what's nice is that I've been working in agencies for years now, which is always clients bringing new and unique problems that we can solve, hopefully through design, through messaging. And try to push the envelope on those each time. So it would be easy if I'm just an artist for myself and doing things I like to grow stagnant and run out of ideas, run out of inspiration. But we're constantly presented with new things I have to use design to solve. So that could be logos, it could be illustrations, it could be for a bank, it could be for lately we've been doing a chicken nugget restaurant.
Oh, really?
There's a lot of there's so much that your brain has to explore creatively every week. So there's really no choice but to continually evolve and get better.
Mm-hmm. Right. Very cool.
Design is always changing, and there's always kids fresh out of school and even seasoned pros that are trying new things all the time. So if we're not keeping up, then we're going to fall behind. But the nice thing about design is that there's design principles in place that will never go out of date. Mm-hmm. Trendy design is great, but it's going to fall apart, in the next year or two at all times. So learning those consistent rules of design helps you stay relevant, but you have to explore within those boundaries how to keep things fresh all the times.
Now, I saw that you do photography as well. Like, I checked out your Instagram, and all the photos you do out there are like absolutely stunning. You have so many breathtaking nature photos from places like Texas, Arizona, Utah, Montana. Can you pick out the most memorable moment on your journeys?
Bringing some good questions here.
Thank you.
That's a tough one to answer. There's a few that come to mind. So several years ago, I set this goal that I wanted to visit every national park. And I got about halfway through then before life started getting pretty busy. So I still have that goal, but it may take me a little longer than planned. But when I think about those different places, one of my favorite national parks is definitely Glacier National Park in Montana.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
It is just massive. And when you go there as just a person, you feel so small because of how huge the landscape is there. So that was definitely a place. Being there, it really makes you slow down. I mean, I think being in any parks, even just a city park, it's good to get away and slow down, get away from the busyness of life, and you don't even have to have an agenda. It's good to just like slow down and just kind of absorb everything around you. So Glacier for me, it was one of those like really magical places where it was just hard to comprehend everything happening. But in a really great way. Another place I think is White Pocket in Arizona.
Oh yeah.
That was a pretty unknown spot for a while, and then it got used as one of the iPhone wallpapers, I think a couple of years ago. So of course it blew up a little bit after that. But that's a place. It was like an hour and a half or 2 hour drive into the desert. You have to lower the air pressure on your tires way down so you can have traction going through the sand. And you're just driving on a one-way sand road, like 2 hours out to the middle of nowhere.
Man.
So the day we went out there was incredible. We were the only people there for 5 or 6 hours. I don't know if it's still like that anymore, but when we went, it was like personal playground for the day. Going around and experience a lot of that. That's a very different environment of being in the middle of the desert with like crazy rock formations, and you also just Google White Pocket. It's wild out there. But that compared to like a very lush place like Glacier National Park, very different. But even tying this stuff back to design, it's like, man, I see stuff when I go out to those parks and take photos of things that spur ideas for me creatively. So that's one reason I go to those places. I also just, with the busyness of life and agency world, it's good to just have a huge disconnect. For me, I found that like it's really important for me to do that a couple times a year at least.
Yeah, I would assume that getting outside of a really hectic environment would be really helpful for creativity.
I mean, you want to talk about immersing yourself in nature, being 2 hours out, you can't really get much more immersed than that.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
Who is it? I think it's off the 180 Degrees South documentary, which if you haven't seen it, should go check that out. They talk about how adventure, when you're traveling, adventure starts when everything goes wrong. So I've been in different situations where you get stuck somewhere, or I got caught in a blizzard in the Rockies one time.
Oh goodness.
And those kind of situations are like the most memorable things. So you do have to like kind of put yourself in an uncomfortable place to really have a great experience.
Right.
Getting out of that comfort zone,
Yep.
Oh yeah.
Hi, you're listening to the Vexillocast, a vexing conversation about flags. Stay tuned because we'll be right back. Yeah. So, on top of everything else, photography, working with labor division, I have not overlooked the fact that you're the owner of a company called Dead Rooster Company. That completely blows my mind. That sounds like a completely different endeavor compared to everything else that you're doing. So can you tell me about the company and how it ended up coming about?
Yeah, so Dead Rooster is a dry rub company. A lot of puns we could work in there, but dry rubs are basically like barbecue seasonings. You throw on meat, you can throw it on, some of them you can use just with vegetables. You just kind of let it sit. It's like, think of it as like a dry marinade, and then let it sit for a minute. You could let it sit for about an hour or so is what I prefer. Throw it on the grill, throw it in the oven. It takes all the work out of recipes. It's like one ingredient basically for incredible food. So that kind of came out of, I think after college, we started going to a small town in Oklahoma called Newkirk. One of my buddies, his family had a farm out there. And that's another place kind of out in the middle of nowhere. There's just farmland for miles in every direction. And we'd go out there every 4th of July and just cook for 40, 50 people.
Oh, wow.
Started playing around with different ingredients. I didn't want to use other people's recipes. I wanted to kind of create my own. So we started doing that every year and landed on some really great recipes where people were asking us for recipes, telling us like, just if you can just make me up a batch, like I'll just pay you for it. When that started happening over and over, I was like, you know what, people are coming to me offering money for this. Maybe there's a business here. And as a designer, I look at the world of barbecue, not a place where graphic design is shining. Historically or really at all today. So I saw that and I was like, man, the packaging aisle for any kind of like barbecue rubs, sauces, it's so terrible. And all the names are, you know, slap yo mama, slap yo daddy barbecue. I was like, man, there's an opportunity here to come in and breathe some life through design into this space. So Dead Roots really kind of came out of that. And that was an opportunity for me not only to work on cooking skills and develop recipes. I love cooking. I think it's a hobby everybody should develop for themselves.
I can agree with that.
Yeah.
But it helped me on that. But on the design side, we've had several iterations of packaging. Currently on our third iteration. They've gotten better and better. The early ones were pretty bad. But getting something out there. But did some great packaging just for the rubs. We've also done some gift boxes. Let me explore packaging more, a lot of stickers, things like that. It's just been a good creative outlet for me to do the design work how I want, try new things, and nobody has the opportunity to tell me no.
Yeah. So with Dead Rooster, labor division, photography, all that, it sounds like you're extremely busy balancing all of that. So how do you balance it? Like your art, labor division, Dead Rooster, how does it all fit together?
Well, we haven't even talked about the chicken nugget concept, nuggies.
Oh my gosh.
Nuggies.
Tell me about that.
You should look up Eat Nuggies on Instagram. So that's my business partner at Labor Division, Jeremy Diamond. He also owns a brewery. They spun up a chicken nugget restaurant inside of there, and now kind of a team of us moving forward with that on the marketing side, and then building out another location. So there are a lot of things going on.
Yeah, I can tell.
So you're asking like, how do you balance all of that?
Yeah.
I've always kind of struggled with working too much. But I think the pandemic was a really good reset for me that time, because I met who is my wife now, Paige. I met her a week before lockdown.
Oh, wow.
I think that period of my life could have been a really easy place to fall like backwards into being like a full workaholic, because so much social interactions cut off. But when I met her, it really like forced me to start adapting my schedule to make time with her a priority. And so that's always like, I have like cutoff times of how late I can work on certain days. And I've got to make sure I build time into every day to fully disconnect and spend time at home.
Yeah.
For me, over the last year or two, it's really been like having someone that I need to make a priority and step away from things.
Yeah.
That's something that I struggle with too, just having to balance everything that I want to do along with the people that I love and hobbies and all that. That's a good idea of having a set cutoff time to where after this, no more, you know?
Yeah.
Well, a lot of what I realize too, when I go, even just like going to a park, we have in Tulsa a park called Gathering Place. It's incredible. And next time you're in this area, you should come check it out. And I'll
for sure.
I'm apparently plugging things nonstop. Podcast, but like we set a goal at the start of this year to like go to a park at least once a month. And that feels like a small thing, but man, when I go walk through for an hour or two, just like grab a coffee or a tea and go like walk through a park, or like jump on a swing set for a little bit.
Yeah.
Just like slow down. Like it's that same like reset that I get going on a week-long national park trip, you know, but it's like a small version of that. You know, and finding that time to disconnect in small ways throughout the week, and like making sure you plan that ahead of time. I found is that stuff is very important to find the balance. Because when I'm at work and in the middle of things, it is 100 miles an hour, and I can't stop any of that. And I'm not trying to stop it. Like, it's all going a good direction. But I have to be really intentional about stepping away and creating time where I can slow down.
Right.
People really underestimate how nice it is to just go out to a park and play tennis. That's what me and my partner often do. Just get out and do something, activity, physical. It really helps reset your mind.
The swing set thing, that definitely vibed with me.
Yeah.
Yes, that's my go-to.
Yeah, but you're gonna be way more productive and clear-headed if you have that stuff worked into your life.
Right.
If you don't, if you're running nonstop, I've hit burnout so many times over the years being in the agency.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
And I really, by trial and error, landed on a few things that I found work for me to avoid that.
Hi there. You're listening to part 1 of a 2-part podcast. I'm your host, Violet Jackson, with my co-host, Roxy Milliken. This is produced by me, Violet Jackson, and music is V's Vexillology by Jade, Weston. If you liked the episode, make sure to tell us and follow us on wherever you get your podcasts. Tell a friend about our podcast, or tell a stranger, tell an enemy, do what you want. Make sure to also follow us or message us on Facebook, TikTok, and on YouTube at the Vexillocast. The next episode will be out soon. With that, Vexillocast signing off. This is the Vexillocast, coming back for part 2. So, let's talk about the Tulsa Flag. I was actually really interested to talk to you after you commented on a TikTok that I made back in December. The month before, I actually went to a wedding near Collinsville, and after the wedding, one of my partners and I decided to go explore Tulsa just to see what's around. And I saw your flag everywhere. So I bought a pin and a sticker from Ida Red, which for the viewers is a really nice store in the middle of town. And I bought your flag from Flags Are Good. So do you intentionally keep an eye out for Tulsa Flag posts on social media, like hashtags and stuff?
I do follow the Tulsa Flag hashtag on Instagram. I'll look every now and again, every few months. I'll hop on Twitter. I found it best not to do Tulsa Flag searches on Reddit, because of how Reddit functions. A lot of haters, but yeah, I follow things along for a while. Probably for the first year or two after we released it. I did collect everything and I organized it all in this one slide deck. And I think when it hit it was 300 or 400 slides. I was like, I can't keep maintaining this thing. It was taking forever just to load the document. So, so at this point, it really is. It's everywhere in town, and it's really cool to see that. I think it speaks a lot to how much Tulsans care about the city and the pride people have for what kind of place we are.
I was going to say, since it's been 5 or so years since the final vote and the adoption, how does seeing it affect you now? Do you see anything that you would tweak or change about the flag now?
I've had a few people ask me that question. I think the first couple of years, I was like, no, there's nothing I would change at all. I didn't want people doubting it, but if I had to change one thing about it, it would be the beige color would have done white on that because there's not a Pantone equivalent to that color.
Mhm.
And I always question why I went with that. I do think the beige looks better, especially digitally, but to get that, some people have found some different ways of mixing colors on making flags. I think work pretty well, but it would be way easier for everything from like screen printing to a lot of paint, like murals and things with that. If we would have just done a white on that,
Probably easier
that
to
said,
find a white.
I stand behind the beige. I have heard that that's a very rare color in flags.
Yeah.
People pointed that out about the Tulsa flag. It makes it a lot more unique having a beige color.
Of course.
But hard for producers to make products with that particular shade.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
Yeah. So I want to get into the flag itself. The flag is blue on the top and an off-white, like you said, beige color on the bottom. A red shield left to center with a white 6-pointed star in the middle, and a yellow border around the shield with 3 points coming off the bottom. The border also acts as a division between the blue and beige. So can you tell me about the symbolism behind the colors and shapes of the flag?
Top half is the blue field. That represents Arkansas River. That was a huge resource for people that originally settled here. There's a reason why downtown is where it's at as well. A lot of stuff on the west side of downtown is where things were originally settled here. So Arkansas River has always been a big resource for Tulsans, and moving forward, there's more and more things being built around that. So it's definitely a central part of Tulsa.
Right.
One of the big events in Tulsa's history was in 1901. They discovered oil a little bit southwest of downtown, so an area called Red Fork. The Bland family, I believe, struck oil there. So that horizontal line, a gold line that runs through the middle of the flag design, represents that discovered oil, or the black gold is what it was called back then. And that was a huge reason Tulsa grew so quickly in its population.
Yep.
It's definitely a defining event. The shield is kind of the most prominent piece of the flag, and it's, I think, what people have pulled out the most. We've seen that used so many different ways. Anyways, that shield represents the tribes that were relocated here. So it's definitely a forced relocation to Tulsa. So, a lot of Tulsa's history is definitely dark, but it's good to look back at some of those moments, especially in a flag design, to remember kind of how far we've come and to continue chasing being a better city.
Absolutely.
Within the shield, there's a red circle. That is another nod to a very important event in Tulsa's history, the Tulsa Race Massacre in 1921.
Yep.
We just had the centennial for that last year, and they're doing a lot of, right now I'm just 5 or 6 blocks away from Greenwood, where all that happened. The building I'm in is like basically built on top of where a lot of that stuff happened. So
wow.
So that was definitely something very swept under the rug for years. I didn't learn about that until I was an adult, and I went to school here and went to college in Oklahoma too. And that was just something that was hidden for a long time. A lot of records destroyed on what happened. So very, very sad event for the Black community here. It's really horrific. That red circle within the shield represents the bloodshed from that event. A lot of great things have happened in Tulsa over the last few years to work to. You can't resolve that. You can't fix it. But there's a lot of things that we can do to be better moving forward. So I think the flag is just a nod to that. The beige star within the middle of that red circle just kind of represents Tulsa's future. A star is like is a like you think of the North Star, it's a guiding point. It's something to look towards and head towards.
Right.
So the star is representative of where Tulsa can head, and always looking for a brighter future. It is kind of a nod. The style of that is kind of a nod to some Art Deco. Bottom half of the flag is just a beige field. So a lot of people say coming to Tulsa, people are just really kind here. There's a program called Tulsa Remote that pays people to move here. I've worked with other organizations that moved like entire teams of people from living in the Bronx, living outside of downtown Tulsa. That is a huge cultural shift for people. And so that was a group of people I did headshots with years ago. And I asked all of them, like, what is Tulsa like compared to living in the Bronx? Like, do you hate it? Like you don't have access to all these things now. And, you know, even like people coming here from huge busy cities with everything you can imagine, people love being in Tulsa, is what I've heard just across the board. Everyone is super welcoming, very kind community of people. And if you're trying to build something or start a business or be an artist or a musician, like whatever it is, Tulsa has a ton of opportunity. And so that beige field just represents kind of the warmth and community that exists here that really helps foster people to do great things.
Yeah. So, but you told me the other day when we initially talked that, of course, Vexillology isn't exactly a big focus of yours. So, what was your motivation behind putting in a new flag design?
That's a great question. Motivation behind that. I think I was very aware of Tulsa's existing flag. Roman Mars talked about it on his podcast, pointed out as being a terrible flag design. We had a second layer of complication with our flag, our previous flag, because it was just the city seal on a white banner. And it was actually a misdemeanor to reprint that because it had the city seal on it. You're basically it's like a government identity theft type.
I remember reading about that.
Yeah, so nobody could even make the flag. So that process of opening up, redesigning, I kind of see it as a logo for Tulsa. Logo design's one of my favorite things to do, and so having the opportunity to do that, there's no way I wasn't going to jump on that. Because it's such a big thing, and I didn't know where it was going to go. I didn't realize that the Tulsa flag was going to become as big of a thing as it has. I thought it was a cool opportunity. I knew it had a lot of potential, but it's far exceeded what I thought it could be used for. So my motivation was just I love Tulsa.
Hi, you're listening to the Vexillocast, a vexing conversation about flags. Stay tuned because we'll be right back. So right now I'm pulling from the Tulsa Flag website. So in November of 2016, there were 535 submissions for a new flag. By March next year, they narrowed it down to 3. And by May, there were over 8,000 votes for a new flag. And out of those 3, 51% of those were for your flag. And that's gotta feel good to make history like that. So how were you feeling after the results came in?
Man, I'm trying to put myself back in some of those moments years ago. I remember being really excited, but I don't like being in the spotlight. And so I kind of held a lot of excitement to myself, I think. And then maybe like talking with family was probably kind of who I shared most of that excitement with. You know, when people find out still that I designed that, they're like, oh, that's incredible. And I think I kind of forget a lot of times that how cool a lot of that is.
I wanted to say as a follow-up to that, as Violet pointed out, you know, there are several rounds as laid out on that Tulsa Flag website. What do you think is the biggest hurdle you faced on that? Was it getting the input from citizens there on what they wanted, or the actual design process, or what?
lot of hurdles. I've had different people. I know a lot of people involved in this process have asked, how do you run a process to change a city flag? And it is a lot of work and takes a lot of money too.
Mm-hmm.
There are hurdles every step of the way. I think if you design a democratic process and have a lot of involvement from the community, it's going to be the best chance to have fewer hurdles.
Mm-hmm.
But for the Tulsa flag, I mean, one of the biggest hurdles was one, community acceptance, because the people that disagree with it are going to be the loudest voices.
Mm-hmm.
They're definitely fewer than people that support it, but every time local newspapers or TV stations post an article, I mean, it was like algorithm crack for those pages. Anytime they would do a video or a segment,
Mm-hmm.
you would have city council would release or the city would put out like their fiscal budget for the next year.
Mm-hmm.
And that would literally get like 3 comments of people like, thanks or something. Then, which is like a hugely important thing to discuss and review as a citizen here. But so it was a big hurdle of trying to convince people that the community really did buy into this idea. Because if you go to these news outlets and things, you see a lot of negativity. And I think, the big hurdle in that is getting it through city council, because it had to go through city council vote and they had to get a majority vote yes. That was on the table for a while with Tulsa City Council. Was going to go to a vote, and then they pulled it because of support. A lot of city councilors were like, hey, I'm getting phone calls from people saying don't vote for this.
Wow.
Some people said it's like the most phone calls they'd ever got over any issue was over this flag. I'm like, man, some people in Tulsa need to work on their priorities here of what they actually need a voice and opinion over.
There's much more important things to make your voice heard on.
Yeah, but I mean, I understand it, and it's a group of people saying, hey, this is going to be your new flag, and they felt like they had no say in it. I understand why people could get upset about it, but that was a big issue. I think convincing city council that everyone actually did support it. What was great was that when they pulled it away, we just kind of had grassroots effort, working with a lot of business owners and influencers and different people around. I say influencers, people that just had a lot of contacts and people in town. And there's a lot of people pulled in, just, hey, we need more support here. We need more people involved. We need stickers passed out. I remember one time we bought, I think it's 12,000 Tulsa Flag stickers.
Man.
Oh, wow.
Just went around to Tulsa coffee shops and we're like, here's 100 stickers. Just, can you keep these at your cash register? Give them out. Like, feel free to sell them. Do whatever you want to. You mentioned Ida Red. We did the same thing, like drop off hundreds of flag stickers and be like, just do whatever you want to. If you want to sell them, give them away. Like, we're just trying to get this stuff out there. So that was a big hurdle of just getting community support. But a little while into that process, after the flag was selected as the winner, you start seeing murals pop up. People were doing custom Air Force Ones.
Oh, wow.
People were doing, there's a guy I've been working for a couple of years on Tulsa Flag license plates through the state of Oklahoma.
Wow.
I've seen people carve it into stone, skateboard decks. I ran into a guy last week that has a Tulsa Flag tattoo. It's always funny when I run into those people. So it just started. It was very much grassroots efforts. We're just asking average Tulsans, like, if you care about this, and like, show it off, buy a flag, put it up somewhere. That definitely took a lot of effort, but Tulsa accepted it really quickly, embraced it, and once we got to that point, City Council approved it unanimously, and after that, it was kind of like it didn't matter if people disliked it anymore. It was it went through, and from there we just kind of let the city and people do with it whatever they want to.
Yeah, I remember when Pittsburgh, Kansas had their flag design contest, and I put mine in. The city announced it, and it's like, oh, here's the 3 designs, and just a flood of comments that are like, I hate all of them.
Mhm.
We should fix the roads, or is like, we don't need this symbolism. And it was really hard to get past just the flood of hate for these flags. Like people feel like there should be like more priority on some other things than just the flag that represents them.
Mhm.
That one, it cost $0 city dollars. So there were a number of private donors
Right.
Mhm.
that donated the funds, bought all the initial flags. I think all the flags, there was like 4 of them of the old flag flying in Tulsa total.
Oh wow.
So they were like, literally, you have to buy 4 flags. We'll buy your 4 flags to replace them.
Mhm.
So it didn't cost any taxpayer money. That was probably the top complaint from people.
Mhm.
If anything, it wasted probably about 45 minutes of a city council meeting. Outside of that, the taxpayers did not spend a dime on this. So
Mhm.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask as a follow-up question, talking about the hurdles and trying to get community support. What do you think is stopping other designers from changing their city flags?
I mean, it's a lot of work. You have to build a process that people are going to buy into. Specifically, a city council and city leaders will support. A lot of times, it's really difficult to build a private initiative that needs to go through city approval. There's just a ton of politics that happens there.
Mhm.
Most of that's just outside of people's control. But you look at a city councilor getting phone calls throughout the day, angry about the flag design. You have to consider like what that's going to do to people's schedules
Mhm.
and lives. I think anybody could go build a process around it, and we've shared the process around this with other people.
Mhm.
Anybody could go build a process of this, but there are so many steps along the way,
Mhm.
and you have to try to make as many people happy as you can in the process to get that community support. It's an uphill battle. I think for the Tulsa flag, from idea, like conception, to passing through city council, I'm trying to remember how long that took. It was well over a year. I want to say a year and a half, maybe. So for anybody out there that wants to redesign their city flag, I would encourage people, if you think your flag could be better, definitely go do that. But you have to really believe in your city. You have to really love the place that you live in and be okay with a lot of setbacks
Mhm.
because they're going to come. But if you're focused on the vision to change the flag and give something great to the community, that none of that stuff can really stop you. But it's got to take a lot of focus to make that happen.
Understood.
Right.
Thank you.
Yeah. So we're gonna wrap up here. Thank you so much, Jordan, for joining us today and being on the podcast. So,
Mhm.
and to viewers, thank you so much for listening to the Vexillocast. I'm your host today, Violet Jackson.
And I'm your co-host, Roxy Milliken.
And this is produced by me, Violet Jackson, and music is Vexillology by Jade, Weston. And if you like the episode, make sure to tell us and follow us on wherever you get your podcast. Tell a friend about our podcast, or tell a stranger, tell an enemy, do what you want.
Proselytize on the street.
There you go. Make sure to also follow us or message us Facebook, TikTok, YouTube at the Vexillocast. The next episode will be out soon. And with that, the Vexillocast signing off.